Welcome, everyone, to our high school football preview show right here on WKYC.com, also Facebook Live and YouTube. I'm DeNatale. That is Tyler Carey as we get you ready for the halfway mark of the regular season. Remember, we're only playing a 6-game regular season. And TC, you came up with our game of the week this week, and I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be a great matchup of unbeaten.
Yeah, it's a place we've never been to before. And in fact, I don't think you've covered a game there before in your long, illustrious history of calling high school games. The Painesville, a county matchup, a rivalry conference matchup. The Painesville Riverside Beavers taking on the Perry Pirates over there in Lake County. Perry has been known for their high-powered offense over the years. They are on a 21 game regular season winning streak. And you know that they're going to look to make it 22 on Friday night. Dino, as you said, I'm very excited for this one.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the coaches first. I mean, there's so many things to love about this matchup. The coaches are great. You know, Dave Boers and Matt Rosati. I mean, they're two guys. When you think about Lake County and that part of Greater Cleveland, I mean, their programs are great. They're great personalities, and they're explosive teams. I just think that, you know, historically, I mean, these are both teams that put points on the board and are hard to stop, especially, you know, when the weather's good. And like we had the other night when we were down in Brunswick, in September especially. These are hard teams to slow down, both of them.
Well, put it this way, Dino. The last time these two teams played, season opener in 2019, Perry won the game 63-54. So you can expect. Go ahead, sorry. Yes.
I said I'm for a late night.
Yes, you can expect that they would be willing to do that again this year. Riverside coming off a bit of a tough season where they finished just 4-6. They had some really tough losses down the stretch that knocked them out of the playoffs. This year they're off to a 2-0 start, 2 blowout losses in their first 2 games, as Perry is off to a very similar start at 2-0. You would think that the Pirates would probably be the favorite in this game, but I do think this is a Beaver squad that is more than motivated after last year and is certainly up to the challenge of scoring with this team. I don't think there's going to be a lot of defense, let's put it that way, but I think that either one of these teams has a real shot to win it.
Yeah, and I think it's another one of the games like we just had last week down in Brunswick that, you know, probably you'll want to be listening throughout, but that last 2 minutes I think might be something special. It might be something really memorable, because it might be the last team that has the football will be driving.
Exactly. Yeah, I really can't wait. The key player we're going to have to watch in this game is going to be on the Perry side, and that's Jalen Anderson, the all-purpose running back, 4-star recruit, committed to West Virginia. Neil Brown down in Morgantown has really done a great job of poaching some of the best Northeast Ohio high school football players over the last couple of years. I think you're going to see this offense run through him, but their quarterback play, their passing game has been very good as well over the past couple of years. I think that with that Pirate team, this is, and we've talked about this the first couple of weeks, it's really about fine-tuning for the postseason. And that's the case with any team. But this is a Pirate team that made it all the way to the regional final last year and lost 17-13. That offense was shut down to Poland Seminary. And they want to prove that they are a team capable of winning a state title. And in order to do that, you're going to have to win these games against your county rivals, your conference rivals. Again, I would probably lean towards them in this game, but you know they're not going to be looking past the Beavers at all.
No way. This is a big stretch for the Beavers, by the way. They've got our game Friday against Perry, and then they get a date with Chardon the next Friday night. So it's a big stretch, you know, for Dave Boers to kind of see where his team is heading into the playoffs. Now, TC, as we look back at last weekend, certainly, you know, the game that stands out and just was like a wow was what Hoban did against Edward. I mean, that was a statement of all statements in a battle of two heavyweights.
Absolutely. I mean, we're certainly used to at this point seeing Hoban come up with these blowout wins, but to have St. Edward be on the receiving end of it, especially after the Eagles just had a very nice win over Massillon in week 1, I think we were all shocked when we saw that final score, 35-0. Shane Dawson was the star in that game, 167 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Daryl Peterson Jr., or Victor Dawson, excuse me, Daryl Peterson Jr. Had a good game as well. We've talked about who the best team in the state is since we've started doing this. And I've got to think, as it's been the last couple of years, I think right now that's got to be Hoban, at least in Northeast Ohio, maybe in all of Ohio.
Yeah, and I think in any division, I just to do that to Tom Lombardo's squad is pretty impressive. By the by, we will have on WKYC.com. Our Nick Camino had a chance to chat with Tim Terrell, the head coach of the Hoban Knights. We'll have that interview and post everything for you here coming up later this afternoon at WKYC.com and on the WKYC app. Nick also spoke with Mike Elder, head coach of the Avon Eagles, that had another living dangerous game, and they were able to overcome another tough opponent in Division II, another conference rival, if you will, in Olmsted Falls. And, you know, you're going to have to play games like this in the playoffs, so why not have a couple of come-from-behind heart stoppers to open a season, right?
Yeah, talk about fine-tuning for the postseason. They've certainly had a taste of it these first couple of weeks, and against 2 very good teams. We know how good Avon Lake is. They just, coming off their loss to Avon, they just beat Berea Mid-Park 63-14 in week 2. And Olmsted Falls is a team that has really put up a fight in that conference the past couple of years. I think we were a little bit surprised to see Avon struggle as much as they did to come in trailing in the fourth quarter. But Nico Pappas, the quarterback, leading him on a couple of very nice drives to end that game and pull out the win. You would hope it gets easier from there, as those 2 teams are usually their biggest competition in that conference. But you know they've got to be relieved to just get out of there with a couple of wins and know that, okay, once we get to the postseason, we're capable of winning these knockdown, drag-out affairs that are going to go down to the very last second.
Yeah, it's almost like you don't have too many sighs of relief or a breather, but it's like, okay, we got through those first 2 games. Now let's make sure we get fine-tuned here for the next couple weeks. TC, who else has stood out to you here coming off of week 2, or maybe as you think about it from a wider first couple weeks focus?
Well, I think Menor certainly had a very nice win in their second game against Euclid. Euclid's a team that has a lot of D1 recruits, a lot of power on offense. And we mentioned that this Menor team isn't as dominant as it was the year before, where they were just blowing everybody out until they got to the nitty-gritty of the postseason. But anytime you beat a team like Euclid, it's a very, very impressive showing. And to get to 2-0 with the new coaching staff, with some guys replacing players from that great team last season, Ian Kipp still doing his thing at quarterback, I think Menor is once again showing that the state title, at least in the Northeast region, is going to have to run through them. Also, just in the game of the week last week, I was very impressed by what we saw from the Brunswick Blue Devils, especially losing their all-purpose player, Jake Charette, early in that third quarter. You know, Medina's a pretty good team, and they really kept them in control throughout much of the affair, picking off Drew Aller 4 times on defense. It'll be interesting to see how they do with Charette down, but we've been waiting for a few years to see this renaissance of Brunswick football, and I think last week we saw a taste of it and a good sign of things to come for that team.
Yeah, I love their defense. You know, Rymack up front to kind of, you know, be the bulwark of that defense. Mm-hmm. McKinley is the linebacker, and Hamrick kind of anchors that secondary. And those guys in particular, but There's talent there, and they can move the football enough to score. I think they want to let their defense do the dirty work and do the heavy lifting. But, even with Charette out, they still have enough weapons on that offense. Dye comes to mind. Badini comes to my mind, where they can still put points on the board. But I think their defense is going to have to continue to force turnovers like they did, put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. That was the thing. Drew Aller just never got comfortable because, it was like a hornet's nest for him in that backfield.
And when you can make a Division I recruit like Drew Aller uncomfortable, that is a good sign that this defense can play with anybody. Now, again, we're going to have to see what happens when Brunswick plays some of these better teams in the conference. And this is not to denigrate Medina. They are a very good team, but they do get Menor coming up in a couple of weeks, and we know that that's just a whole different animal. Strongsville still on the schedule, Garfield Heights, always a tough opponent. But as always, this Greater Cleveland Conference shaping up to be very competitive, where they almost kind of beat each other up, and then you wonder if they're too tired out when they get to the postseason. But I think it's nice to see the Blue Devils good again. I still remember when my alma mater, Twinsburg, played them in the playoffs 11 years ago, and they've, again, been through kind of a downstretch lately. To see them give those teams like Medina and Menor a run for their money, and Euclid too, they only lost to Euclid by a touchdown, remember, is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, high school football is always better in Northeast Ohio when schools like Strongsville, Brunswick, are back on top, or back playing well. Before we get out of here, look ahead here to this Friday night. Any games besides our game, which we're excited about, a couple of 2-0s going at it. Any games that you'll be kind of giving special notice to?
Well, a couple that we were talking about as possible game of the week selections. Olmsted Falls taking on North Olmsted. We'll see if Falls can recover from that difficult loss to Avon. Chardon and Kenston is going to be a huge, huge game. We know that has been that's one of those games that's gone down to the very last possession the last 2 years. And Kenston, again, what the year they won the state title, that was their only loss. And I think it was also what may have derailed their defense of that title last year.
Made them go on the road in the first week of the playoffs instead of being home.
Exactly. And they end up losing in that first week. Hoban, I want to see how they can follow up that big win over St. Edward. They get Benedictine this week. Benny, obviously a very good team. I'm not sure they're quite on the level of St. Edward, though. So you're almost looking to see if the Knights can beat them by an even wider margin than they did the Eagles in week 2. And St. Edward is going to be taking on Menor this week. So you get blown out. You beat Massillon week 1 in a knuckle dragger. You get blown out by Hoban in week 2. You think, maybe we can get a break. No, you go play the Cardinals on the road. So no one ever said that St. Edward was ever averse to scheduling tough teams. I've always respected that about them, but this is not going to be an easy stretch. And you would think they're going to be a little bit dazed after that beating at the hands of Hoban, but Tom Lombardo is a very good coach, and I'm sure he'll have his players motivated to right the ship in week 3.
Yeah, no question about it. I'm with you, by the way. I'm real curious to see how Ronnie Schultz and Benedictine does against Hoban. If Hoban puts a shutout on the board, I'd be absolutely, blown away. But that's how well they're playing right now.
We could just be talking. If that happens again, I think we could just be talking about a state championship being a formality at this point.
More or less, yeah. Then you're starting to talk about, national.
Yes.
Being nationally good. All right, TC, again, Friday, we will be up in Perry as the Pirates play host to the Beavers from Riverside. I'll join you for the call at 6:50. Tyler will be here on screen to provide scores and updates throughout the night, and we will look forward to seeing you then. Again, that's our game of the week this Friday, Riverside and Perry. Hope you join us. It'll be a lot of fun. As Tyler said, my first trip up there, couldn't be more excited. For TC, I'm Dave DeNatale. Thanks for watching our high school football preview show right here on WKYC's Facebook Live and YouTube.